Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Being Your Own CEO Success Circle. This is a group that meets on a regular basis, on a weekly basis, every day, every week at this time. And I think we've been meeting, gosh, it's getting close to 2 years, I think, isn't it, Nathan? I think
Yeah, probably.
Nathan was one of the first who came here. So because I saw a number of people who planned on taking in the recording, I thought I would start us off in the way that we do periodically, just to make sure that everybody knows what we're about here. We're a group of solo entrepreneurs, or solopreneurs, as I like to refer to us. And our purpose is to come together to receive and give support to one another, share what we know, and I guess there's a little bit of socializing that gets rolled into that as well. So we do have a few principles that we like to kind of follow. Relationships before business. An understanding that you can get everything in life and business provided you help others get what they want. That's Zig Ziglar, I think. And we stand for positive possibilities and keep an open mind. So we do try to keep our conversation on the positive level for sure, but realistic, of course. Can't be totally 100% positive unless you inject a little bit of realistic in there as well. I see Carlo laughing. And a long time ago, one of our members wanted to add, we never sell anything we are not prepared to deliver impeccably. And I always thought that was a very nice addition. So those are some of the things that we stand for, and I'm just inviting Paul in here. So what we normally do is we start off the same way. Everybody does a little intro about who they are and where they are and what they do. And sometimes we'll say a little something about anything that's new or anything that they would like to announce. And then we'll get into our discussion about crowdcasting this morning. So Anna, you're on my left-hand side, and we're not seeing you. We're seeing your
I know. I don't think you want to see me. I'm like, wait.
So would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, sure. My name is Anna Fernandez. I am with I'm a VIP affiliate with Travel Medevac, and we supply snowbird travel protection plans. I'm also an amateur website builder, and I would like to announce that I have finished and launched 3 websites. Yay! Yeah, I'm pretty proud. I've learned so much, and I feel so much more confident now over this last several months. Really having fun doing that, so I think I might develop that a little bit more. But yeah, that's me, and I'm in Mazatlan, Mexico.
Right on. We haven't seen you for a while, so I'm very happy to have you back. Okay, so the next person that's in line is Anne. Good morning, Anne. Oh, you must be muted somewhere. So we'll move on to Carlo and see what we can do about Anne.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Carlos Savio in Las Vegas. I'm a small business management and financial consultant, digitally fluent, a self-taught web engineer, proficient in several web-based programming languages, been actively using the internet almost daily since 1992. Currently, I operate a comfortably small digital consultancy, working with only 6 to 8 clients at a time in 180-day cycles, while teaching them how to outcompete locally in both their online and offline marketing efforts.
Right on. So, and I think this local is going to become a really big thing in the coming year, isn't it, Carlo?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
Jay, how about you?
You're muted.
No, I'm not.
I knew it. Snag.
Hi, my name is Jay. My company is Affiliate Resources Incorporated, and I help people just like you get started in the world of internet marketing. Exciting things for me, I guess. 2 more weeks until a vacation that I'm going to, a business vacation I'm taking down in Las Vegas. Very excited for that. Staying at the MGM Grand in the Skylofts. I will be having my own butler during that time. That's pretty cool.
That would be an interesting experience.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
And I know you're not going to say this, but I will. Jay is getting that trip because of his performance on Wealthy Affiliate.
Yay, Jay.
Yeah. So welcome, Jay.
Thank you.
And next in line is Nathan.
Oh,
Jay,
okay.
and Jay, you're in Victoria.
Good old YYJ, that's right.
Yeah. Sorry, Nathan.
Not a problem. I have no idea what the call sign would be for where I'm at. I'm in Ensenada, Baja, California. My name is Nathan, as introduced earlier. My main gig for years has been freelance writer. My main focus now is a conference which I hope to hold December 14th, and it's called End All Wars by Ending the War Within. And it's about showing people how they cause their own pain and then showing them how they can actually end it. And the focus is basically showing people that they need to stop blaming each other or others for their problems. That their problems are caused from within. And the solution is to face that, and then they can find their way out. So that's what I'm up to. And I've stepped up my activity. I've been doing a hangout once a week, but switched that to Sunday afternoon because of friends in Australia. And I'm also doing 3 blabs a week now, Monday and Wednesday at 9 o'clock, and Friday at 3. So.
Right on. And maybe sometime we'll have a conversation about the experience of blabs.
Sure.
We've touched on it a few times, but we haven't really explored it. So, yeah. So, wow, you're moving right along into the online world, for sure. So, Paul, how about you?
How about me?
Would you like to introduce yourself and where
Absolutely.
you are?
I'm Paul. I'm in Victoria, and I'm on a mission to stamp out sales breath, and that's all I got to say.
Welcome here, Paul. It's nice to have you.
It's nice to be had.
Oh dear.
And Nathan, are you in Ensenada, Mexico?
Oh, he just dropped off.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
That was strange. Oh, he's just trying to get back in. So he must have had one of those funny blocks that happen every once in a while. Okay, and I might say a little something about what I do in my work style, lifestyle coaching and consulting. I support solopreneurs or solo entrepreneurs find direction and stay motivated and build systems that support and promote their business. I find that a lot of solo entrepreneurs, they share a number of characteristics. Quite often, they don't have enough clients, they don't have enough time, and they do an awful lot of procrastination. So I'm here to help them sort of move along. I think that's all I can need to say this morning. So welcome everyone. Happy that you're here. And we we touched on just briefly, I don't know whether it was during the recording last time or after it stopped in the green room, but we did decide that we wanted to talk a little bit about crowdfunding. And I think it came about as a result of something that Carlo, he talked, yes, you talked about something that you're excited about in a direction for the coming year. I think that was where that came up. And so you had said something to the effect that you were putting together a program just for crowdfunding. So I think we all sort of realize that we all sort of know a little something about crowdfunding, but maybe not as much as you do. So
one can only hope.
right. So my research I didn't do a whole lot. I'm very much aware of Patreon because I support a couple of people in the community here who do some regular things. So I'm very much aware of that. And there's another one called Kickstarter that I discovered, and that seems to be more along the lines of investing, etc. So here's what I learned about those two things. Kickstarter is for people who have a project that they are trying to find the resources to take. It's for a starter or a change of some sort. And they set a financial goal, and people go in and make a commitment to donate a certain amount, and nothing happens unless and until the goal has been reached. That's kind of what I was able to determine. So with the Kickstarter, they have a way of connecting to your credit card rate from Kickstarter. Patreon, on the other hand, is more about reoccurring funding. So when you go in and make a donation there, it comes out, the fee comes out once a month, and it seems to be more suited to people who do ongoing things, like musicians that are creating new things and inviting people, or people who are delivering courses, etc. So somebody is just mentioned that there's a list of crowdfunding organizations. We're having a difficulty. People seem to be bouncing off and on here, so you'll have to pardon me as I try to help them get back in again. Something seems to be happening. So there's a link in the comments section from Paul on crowdfunding, Canadian crowdfunding. So, but just to finish, the Patreon seems to work better, or it works through a connection with PayPal. So, and I see some people bouncing back and forth and in and out.
Not intentional, believe me.
And so you both got voice in there, I think. So that's a good sign. So those are two things. I did find something else called Angel Investment Network, but I didn't find a whole lot about that. So those were the things that I found out about. And by the way, from the Patreon perspective, you can donate as little as $1 a month, and it goes up from there. So if there is somebody that you really want to support, who a musician or somebody who's doing little training sessions or whatever, you can it's affordable. It's a way to help them carry on with the work that they're doing. So yeah, and thank you, Jay. You put the link in for Patreon in the comments section. I appreciate that. Yeah. So what else have we found out about? Is anybody else, before Carlo has agreed to share with us what he knows, but I thought it would be nice to hear whether anybody else has participated in a crowdfunding circumstance in the past and what your experience was.
I have.
So what tell us about it, Nathan.
There actually isn't a lot to tell. I discovered that building community is everything, and you need to build the community in a really good group around you, the conversation, the discussion. If you don't do that and you launch a crowdfunding initiative, it's going to bomb. And that's what I found out. I raised $50, and that was it. And learned afterwards, there's a guy, hold on a sec, I'm going to do a search for it, because I have a friend who promotes a course on Udemy to do with crowdfunding, and he's got something like 1,400 students. And if you want to learn the process of how to make it work, this guy, he really knows his stuff. His name is Eli Regalado, but let me find his course, and I'll post the link for it.
Right, that would be great. So you make a good point, though, Nathan. There's
Found out the hard way.
It's up to the individual to do the marketing, as I see it.
Can you hear me at
Yes.
all?
Yes.
All right. So I have a little bit of experience with it. A friend of mine used, I cannot remember the name of the crowdfunding. It was the second one that you mentioned, Lolan. Kickstarter. Okay, so a friend of mine used Kickstarter to fund getting a book that she'd written published. And she did reasonably well. The one thing that she had not realized, and I'm not sure how it works in the States, but if you're Canadian, that's all taxable income.
Yes, I did see something to that effect somewhere in my travels.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So that's yes, that would be considered income, of course.
Well, yeah, totally. It makes sense, because it would, even when you're asking for investment from a traditional standpoint, that's still taxable income as well. So, so since it's just because you're acquiring the funds through an online base, it wouldn't make any kind of changes. So yeah, I can understand that. I've invested in a couple of businesses within Kickstarter, and also privately through angel investing, and people approaching me saying, hey, do you want to invest in this opportunity or this business, which includes software, and yeah, it's worked out quite well. The one thing I think Kickstarter is all fine and dandy. I think it's a fun thing to get started, but you want to be. Kickstarter isn't necessarily going to get you bring you back at your investment. In most cases, Kickstarter is something where someone's trying to build something, whether it be a product, a book, and in exchange for your funds, your money, you're going to get like an advanced copy of it, or a signed copy, something a little more exclusive, as opposed to getting a true ROI back. And that's something that a lot of people are honestly not really that aware of in terms of Kickstarter. I haven't invested in Patreon yet, but I do like that idea of the investing in someone. So I think it's a neat cause. So yeah, but anyways, like when people approach you, I think if people approach you, say, hey, are you willing to invest in this business or this company? I guess I've watched enough of Dragon's Den and Shark Tank to know the questions to ask in terms of what you need to ask if you have intent of getting an ROI back, with any kind of investment. Like what are you going to do with the money? Where do you see what's your vision? of the product or the service that you're going to do. What are you going to charge? Et cetera, et cetera. What kind of stake am I getting for my investments? So, yeah.
So a question arises in my mind. So if this is, because in both of those cases, my understanding is that they're both donations in a kind of a way.
Yeah.
So yes, maybe a donation for whatever was being built. And with Patreon, I noticed that, and I support Steve Dotto and Mike Vardy, and both of them, they generate huge amounts of very useful information. And so it's kind of an ongoing thing. And the way they handle it is they offer that much more for their Patreon investors or their Patreon subscribers.
Right. Yeah, it's a fancy pants way of asking for a donation, right? It's getting Patreon to essentially help you market your cause, as opposed to just putting a PayPal donation button on your website, right? So stick it on Patreon, and then it looks a little more, valid, if you will.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a bit of a difference between the Patreon, for example, the Patreon and the GoFundMe. I think a GoFundMe is a one project goal.
Yes.
Or you're aiming for one thing, whether it be somebody needs money for cancer, medicine or whatever,
or something like that.
Yeah, or to get started in something. And then Patreon, you're looking at it where you're getting an ongoing service from the person that you're being the patron to.
Yeah.
So two different ways of setting up. I don't know Kickstarter. I think that's more like a business startup kind of thing, I believe. I've never looked at it, but yeah. So they're all different levels, different purposes.
Well, and the question that arises in my mind is if I donate to one of these, is it tax deductible as a donation?
No, it's not unless they are a registered charity. It's
Okay.
not a donation. I mean, it's a donate. Basically, you're giving your money away. Or in Patreon, for instance, really it's a subscription. They're just referring to it in a different way, so that's not tax deductible.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I don't even know if you could put that down as an expense.
I think you can under Patreon because you're investing in something. So whether it's education, business education or something like that. So at least that's my attempt this year.
I think you could probably justify that. In the case of Kickstarter, I know you're often buying a product, but
yes.
So they're selling a book. They want to publish a book, and if it's sell for 15, but you pay 25, and you'll get the book sooner, and it'll be signed, and maybe you get some other little thing. So my friend again thought it was a donation or an investment in her business. She saw it that way, but in fact, it's income. Yeah. So that's one thing. If you decide to start one of those projects, you have to realize you're going to have to pay taxes on it. She hadn't priced appropriately for allowing for the fact that she was going to have to pay tax on it. So you have to remember that whatever you set your pricing at.
Yeah. Well, plus it's in U.S. dollars, so if you're getting $100 a person, you're getting 150 you Canadian, so you're getting taxed on 150 instead of 100.
130.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've all had a little bit of experience with crowdfunding. So,
Luann, just a note: if you're looking at funding a business using one of these, for example, there's one in a very good one in Vancouver called Razor. You have to be very cognizant of the securities regulations in your area. For example, in BC, when you're using these, they're just starting to be recognized in Canada. I know it's easy to do in Ontario, and BC, the last time I looked at it was last summer. They were looking at legislation to allow the actual, if you like, funding of shares through these organizations. So make sure you're cognizant of that if you're going to be an investor
Aha.
or raising money for your company.
Yeah, good advice. So, Carlo, last time you gave us just a little snippet of the source or the history of or the evolution of how all of this happened. Would you mind sort of giving that to us again so that we've got that as a context?
Sure. First of all, some of you make me nervous with tax advice. I am not an attorney. I am not a tax preparer. So anything I say to you, do not accept it as official advice. Okay?
Noted.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Looking back into the early days of crowdfunding, I get the impression that we evolved to crowdfunding out of the concept of microfinance, which started, I think, in the 70s, late 70s in India. And that just keep evolving and evolving. One of the easiest ways, I've been studying crowdfunding from a business finance standpoint since about 2010. Started looking at it more seriously. And the easiest way I decided to explain it to a layperson in the sense that, or the uninitiated as far as the ins and out of online financing, is if you think about your local church, temple, or whatever religious organization, and they say to you one day, we're going to add an extension to the building, or we're going to build a business park, and we're looking for donations. Since the people in, we'll call the congregation, know the sponsor, they're open to investing in it. And so coming back to the earlier discussions you've had is not considering it as a field of dreams. If you build it, they'll come. It is based on your own social, it's based on starting from your own social media network. Now, there are more crowdfunding companies than there are Facebook type organizations, and they pop up like boiling water. But my point for the route I'm taking is in the early days, we did things like AOL, walled garden maze, where you stayed in that unisphere. And now we're seeing the same thing with crowdfunding. Respect to all the work that they do. I know what goes into building a crowdfunding. But I take a dim view at paying negative interest rates. And that is, you take that something starter that charges you 4 to 9% of the money that you earn. If it gets to the tipping point, you're paying 4 to 9%. If I said to you, for an example, Paul, lend me $50, but I'm only going to pay you back $42. How would you feel about that? Well, you don't have to answer it, but that's what I see these people doing. And that's great. I'm a little bit envious. I wish I had it. I wish my name was Zuckerberg, but it's not going to happen.
Carlo, it's even worse than that, because what you're really saying is, Paul, can I borrow $50? And oh, by the way, we're giving away 40% of that to some other person, right?
Thank you. Thank you. Gosh, if you weren't in the audience, I'd have to invent you. Thank you, Paul. So to go through that, you're using, just getting my notes, you're using your social media megaphone. And that's really important. Now, you have deciding whether you have a product, a service, or a project. And in a few minutes, I'll get to what I'm going to use it for. Now, so you're doing a launch pad, whereas you're sending out tweets and Facebook posts and Google Plus posts with some history about what it is you're trying to accomplish. Whether it's pre-selling a course, whether it's delivering some kind of a unique product or service. Then they build what's called the campaign page. And as I kidded earlier, the last time, Lowland, it's kind of like a squeeze page, right, when you go through the process. And then you go through a reminder page, and then the beauty of those sites is they have a checkout, and they hold the money in escrow, okay? And then you have an order completion. Now, if you step back from the oh wow concept of crowdfunding and just think it as an e-commerce site, you bring it down to this, whether you're going to use WordPress, whether you're going to use this thing or you're going to use that thing, you can create your own crowdfunding site. And whether you have a direct bank affiliation to take in the money, or whether you use Stripe or PayPal or whatever, you go through that whole process. So if it doesn't pass the smell test, then it's not going to do anything. Friends and family are going to recognize it as a caprice. But if you've got a bona fide project or service to sell, why not do it yourself? All right, so that said, I started studying in the various states in the United States, and I don't dare to think I know anything about Canadian investment projects. Only thing I know is that if I do one in Canada, I got to be licensed. So anyway, in the United States, they're doing crowdfunding of commercial real estate. And now they're moving into crowdfunding of residential real estate. So the project that I'm working on is, imagine you got a website, you're a realtor, and you've got 6 or 8 houses you want to display and presenting it for crowdfunding purposes. All you really need is an e-commerce site and, of course, your licenses in those services. And you present them, and you let people buy into it. Now, the regs across the United States aren't in yet, but they're going to allow up to $5,000 per project for small investors like myself. For many decades, the barriers to entry was the bigger investors, the accredited investors of $250,000 or more, could be privy to these sweetheart deals. So now, Bob Smith or Juan Perez or whoever, instead of getting 1% interest rate at the bank, he could make 8 or 9% in crowdfunding on mortgages. Or he could make 8 or 9% in lending the down payment money on mortgages. So what I'm doing is I'm going to build, I'm in the process, it's not standing up yet, but I'm building a database-driven site, similar to what everybody knows as WordPress, but it's a little easy, quicker to work with, and the design doesn't get in the way, is create a service that I'll merchandise to real estate brokers who are interested. In this case would be in the state of Nevada when the final regs come in. So that's really about it. If you got any questions, I'll be glad to entertain them.
Okay, so I've got 2 questions. Oh, go ahead, Jay.
Sorry, I was just saying, I think it's a really neat idea. It reminds me of a timeshare investment, but with a kickback. But yeah, I think it's a great idea, and I know there's a lot of people that, it sounds like it's an opportunity to make housing available for people who probably normally can't afford housing.
Precisely.
Yeah. So that's a neat idea, and I know there's a lot of, you get gifting going on in terms of down payments and stuff for housing. So I think it's a really neat idea.
Thank you.
Okay, so Carl, I've got 2 questions.
Yes,
so one of them is, if someone decides to do this through you, what kind of assurance do they get in exchange that they actually have an investment in that piece of property? Like, are they legally on title, or how does that work?
Okay. The answer is, all I'm doing is, okay, if you design a WordPress website and you deliver a WordPress website to a client that's capable of doing e-commerce, that's all I'm doing. What the real estate broker agent and their agency does, they handle all that. At this time, I don't want to publicly get into that because I'm not handling any money.
Oh, okay, so it'll be up to.
I'm building. Okay, I'm building a in the box portal
Right.
that can be replicated like a cookie cutter to any number of realtors across the state.
Yeah, so he's like essentially the middleman in terms of marketing and the merchant gateway of funneling monies, into a portal system that gets delivered to whomever, right? And then they handle all of the legals.
Well, and Jay, let me be specific about that. I wouldn't be handle any funds. When the client says, yes, I want this package, they will also give me their banking, whether it be PayEasy or with any of the banks or something. They'll give me all that data, and I will program it into the site and do the sandbox testing, and then deliver to them a package. It's like like a job shop.
Yeah.
Right. So it'd be up to the agents to satisfy whatever legal requirements there are for investors to have their investment in some way protected, right?
Yes, and it would be just like if the broker or the realtor was buying the house for their own investment. Whatever they have to do to assure the investors, that would be done by them.
Right. Now, you said this is already happening? It's already being
Yes.
done in the States?
By His grace, I don't think I ever had an original idea in my life.
I'm curious how they're doing that, what they're registering against the property. And my other question was, you said something about the amount that the crowdfunding companies charge you, and it sounded like it was a very large amount, and yet Kickstarter and all those ones say their fees are 3 to 5%.
Yes. Let me speak to that. I've been involved in commercial finance since 1979, doing commercial financing or sourcing for projects throughout the Americas, from Alaska to Tierra del Fuego. Okay? And as an intermediary, you tell your client, well, our success fee will be 1%. Oh, that's a lot of money for a phone call. That's crazy. I'm not going to pay that kind of money, so on and so forth. But yet, they dive into crowdfunding real estate, and they'll pay 3, 4, 6, 8, 10%, and be happy to. It's like I don't get the logic. So,
right. Okay.
So does that answer your question?
I must have misunderstood the amount you said that they charge, because 3 to 5%.
I'm going to suggest that it's between 4. Okay. It's kind of like a mutual fund. They'll tell you what the rate is, and then you start looking at the management fees. And you say, oh, I didn't know this wasn't included. And oh, the technology cost. Oh, I didn't know that was included. Oh, the maintenance. Oh, you mean I have to pay you to manage that site? So what I'm offering is a smaller, self-managed. I mean, how much management do you have to do to a WordPress site? Okay.
I think also there's certain aspects to GoFundMe or Kickstarter where you can have your listing as a premium listing and pay an extra volume of funds, or have additional things such as Kickstarter has upsells, right? So I would imagine that's what Carlos is factoring in, in terms of the larger percentage volume that he was mentioning. So, but there are other funding websites that have that larger percentage commissions, where it's like 6 or 9% kind of thing. So it depends on, there's a site called Flippa.com, which is a virtual real estate place where you can purchase and sell domain names, websites, and they take a lot of money to do that.
Yeah, that's why I use the concept of paying a negative interest rate. Back in the 70s, I lived for a short time in Montreux, Switzerland. And doing banking, I was surprised to have to pay a negative interest rate as a non-Swiss.
Yeah.
And it just said, wow, that's interesting. So now that's why I see that with the crowdfunding sites. In effect, they're charging you a negative interest rate.
Well, if you got started in Switzerland, I can see how you got into investing. It's a great place to start.
Yes, they have sharp pencils.
Yeah.
And some of my antecedents, I worked in a Lebanese bank decades ago, and those that don't know, the Lebanese have the history of buying from the Greeks and selling to the Jews and making a profit. So that's it for me, unless there's any more questions.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So
That's
I have a
really cool.
question, Carlos.
Yes, Paul.
Are you doing more than just building the website? Are you marketing the website for them as well?
No, I'm coaching
Okay.
on how they should do it. In other words, giving them, I will write the project outline. But for me to be actually involved as a spokesperson, no.
So, and Carlo, is this a standalone website, or is it something that drops into an existing website per se?
No. Okay. The reason I indicated earlier, you could take just about any website with e-commerce capabilities and create your own crowdfunding store. Take away the fancy name of crowdfunding and think about it as e-commerce. And think about what everybody's here in this group and probably watching is comfortable with is interacting in social media in a fair and honest way. So you take those two skills, social media marketing and e-commerce, and you take your product or service and you present to the public for your own account.
Well, and so how is that different? For example, if somebody decided to run a course just using this platform and charging for it,
Okay.
etc. I mean, you could set up all of what we see here on your own website if you had the time and the skills to do it.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. It's
just have to find the niche.
Right. Thank you, Jake. There's nothing, thinking of the Beatles, there's nothing to say that hasn't been said. And if you start taking apart the pieces and saying, oh, I don't have to drop to my knees at the foot of something starter. I could do this myself. Wow, what a concept.
Well, and from where I sit, and Jay, you're going to jump in and correct me, I'm sure, but I mean, some of us have been participating in the Wealthy Affiliate, learning how to do all of this setting up of a website and making an online business. How is that different?
Again, maybe. Okay, there is no difference.
Yeah.
Okay, it's the beauty of it is there's no esoteric secrets to crowdfunding. It's simply an e-commerce site with a gateway to a payment processor. It could be simple as a verified PayPal account.
Yeah.
And since Jay's in the audience, if he plugs in, and I'm going to bend your ear on this one when you get here, the affiliate attributes, what a concept. You go from social media on the front end and affiliate merchandising in the back end. You've got a wonderful accordion to play beautiful music.
It's a yo-yo.
Yes. So Lolan, you indicated a while back that you're thinking of preparing several courses. Imagine, and my point of reference so that everybody is comfortable with the idea, imagine you're looking at a WordPress website that displays photos. Now, instead of photos, they're images of your offering. And they flow into the campaign page of this offering was $49.95, but if you pre-order, you can have it for $24.95, and here's how to do it. There's nothing tricky or slick, or operators are standing by, or ShamWowie.
Steak knives, man. I need steak knives. I need that 3 steps.
It's just a plain vanilla e-commerce website.
But wait, buy now.
It's too bad Casey Kasem is not with us anymore, right? Where that's he is the king of upsell, I think.
Gee, you're a lot older than I thought, Jay.
I found the fountain of youth, my friend.
You have a picture in your attic. It's getting old.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Not only has Jay found it, he's willing to sell it to you.
That's right. Yeah, for a small nominal fee, of course.
Exactly.
I think it's really interesting. I love talking and discussing about things like this because it in terms of online business, it's the end result is the different part, but everything else is the same. Acquiring the customers, acquiring the leads, marketing the business, marketing the website. It's just the end result, but everything else is the same. So Carlo has found a niche where the end result is investing in residential real estate, but everything else is the same. So and that's just to kind of layer on top of what he's saying in terms of building a WordPress site or a proprietary website. If you were to do this using WordPress, it just makes it a little bit easier to get set up as opposed to building a website from scratch. So I mean, that's what the beauty of online business and using WordPress or Joomla or Drupal or whatever kind of content management system. It just helps you get started faster, right? So I think it's a great idea.
Thank you, Jay. Let me add to that. There are many content management systems that are database driven. And that's really all I'm talking about. I use the reference to WordPress because just about everybody at one time or another knows what it is and how you can, start through welcome to, the welcome message on the screen and then provisioning it. It's not that esoteric, but that's not to say that you could build a custom-made website with all the bells and whistles, would do all the neat things like Twitter Bootstrap or Material Design or any of the newer platforms. What you need to be careful with WordPress is, luckily with the newer version, and as they move in, if they move into PHP 7, you'll get rid of all the less than spectacular plugins because you get that plugin drag, which 0 to 60 in a half an hour gets people to abandon your shopping cart.
Yeah, and that's for every call. Meaning, if you have 10 people visiting your website at the same time, that plugin has to work 10 times for each page, assuming the plugin is activated for each page. So imagine 100 people accessing your website at the same time, and they're visiting 10 pages, right? So that means that plugin has to work 1,000 times.
Right.
So you got to be really wary of plugins. It blows me away how trustworthy we are of free plugins. Like, oh, this has a shiny object here for my website. I'm going to install this plugin.
Yes.
Oh, I don't know. It looks like it's developed in Kazakhstan. Oh, well, it's all. I'm sure they're a reputable person. They have their own website.
And that's great. Thank you, Jay. What's interesting about that is we as digital consumers will easily download a plugin on a computer, but when we buy an app in the web store, and it says it has access to this, it has like your girlfriend's phone number and your ex-wife's bank account. You say, no, I'm not gonna load this up on my phone.
Yeah. It's like paying 99 cents for an app. You complain, yet you'll buy a $4 latte, right? Which is a short, meaningless relationship versus something that you're going to have for 99 cents that's going to last a lot longer.
Well put.
Which just goes back to what I've always said. Find somebody who does it well and who you trust and hire them to get it done. Get it done right and save your time and energy.
Yes.
Put it to what you're good at.
I think that's part of the point of crowdfunding is that years ago, if you were starting a business, you went to your friends and family and said, can I borrow some money? I've got a great idea. Crowdfunding allows you to reach out to the entire world. So is it worth paying the fees? That depends on what you want to do and whether you have any other access to funds. So I think it's got its point and its place. And really, for someone that doesn't have the time to set up their own system, go use crowdfunding. Go ahead. Just know what all the implications of it. What's it going to cost you in the end, and what does it really mean? One of the things that I find, and again, it's because I'm an anal bookkeeper, is people talk about investing in companies, but they're not. To invest in a company, you in fact get shares. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, you're giving your money away in the hopes that you may get a product, or just because you love it, and you're totally willing to give that person $50 because you love the music they make or the art they created, and maybe you'll get something back, maybe you won't. It's not an investment. It's giving money away, and sometimes it's a loan, which is totally legit too. You just need to know what it is that you're doing, and they need to know what they're asking for.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you're absolutely right. And in my discussion, I'm gearing this towards the technocratic or the people who are comfortable with getting behind the C prompt and doing things. Mm-hmm. But if you want a solution that you don't have to bother with, as Paul said, there you do it. You hand off that responsibility to somebody else.
You hire Carlo.
Possibly. Thank you for that commercial. If you were again, I'd have to invent you. Let me tell you a funny story. Was talking about crowdfunding and investing. I was a big fan of Walt Disney, and can you imagine what it was like when Walt Disney went to the banks and said, listen, I want to build an oasis, in the desert with an homage to a mouse. And what? And a few years later, when they had proof of concept, they would chase them all over the world. And the idea is, if you have an idea, you can get it from friends and relatives. If you got it for a good idea, you can go to the next level. If you got an excellent idea, you can get another level. But just to wrap it up is, if you've got what you think is a unique product or service, you can go to the prepaid basis, or you could do it to do-it-yourself basis, and be just as happy. The thing that just went in my throat like a popsicle stick sideways is, why pay a negative interest rate for your money? And why wait for a tipping point? If you're not going to do something unethical, then why not do it yourself?
I think that's just a wonderful way for us to kind of conclude our discussion here. That's just a great idea for us to think about. Do you want to pay somebody else to do it, or do you want to do it yourself? Yeah. And sometimes it pays to do one, and then other times it pays to do the other. So,
thank you for allowing me the time.
Pardon me?
Thank you for allowing me the time to share.
Oh, yeah, it's been very stimulating discussion, Carlo. I really appreciate that. So, just before, I see Craig is trying to get in, but I'm not. I don't know. There must be a delay in his area. So, Craig, if you're out there and listening, we're going to fold up the broadcast in a moment. So, but do keep on so that you can join the discussion afterwards. There's always a discussion afterwards, you know. So oh, there's Craig.
Yeah, I was having a little trouble connecting today.
Yes, I can see that. So I'm just about to wrap up the recording, but just before I do, I want to thank Carlo for sharing what he knows and his ideas, and thank everyone else for their questions and comments. And there's Paul waving a thanks. So, but does anybody have any parting comments about crowdfunding before we wrap up? Yes?
I think it was a great discussion. I loved talking about online business, and I think it was great. Love it.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I completely agree with Carlo. You can do it yourself. There's no reason why you can't just ask for those donations or those loans directly if you choose to do that. I think the only difference is that some of those crowdfunding sites may have a larger audience immediately, but really to get the money, you have to build your network, and that's who's going to loan to you. So yeah, you can do it yourself. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, and from the business investing standpoint, or getting people to buy into your business, what you're minimizing is the friction expense. You know, if you raise capital for a business, you've got what used to be known as the dog and pony show, where you wind and dine. You went through your Rolodex, and you wind and dine vendors or clients. That says, so you do everything from your laptop or your tablet or your computer.
Yeah. Oh no, you can. I agree. You can do it yourself, and you can do it. You can reach people that you wouldn't normally reach. You can reach, throughout the world. Really, if you have connections throughout the world,
Yes.
And whether you choose to do it yourself or do it through crowdfunding, I mean, that's the wonderful thing about the internet is you don't just have to go knock on the doors that are in your neighborhood. You can go wherever you want. Mm-hmm. And if you have those connections and you have a great idea, then yeah, you'll probably get some money.
So what you're saying is, if you're going to do it yourself, you've got a lot of work to do building up that collection of people that know, like, and trust you before they're ever going to do buy anything from you or invest in anything that you're doing.
Credibility is key.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So
Just one thing to add,
yes,
Lolan, is one of the things I see a lot of is because we can do all of this stuff and it's relatively easy to do, I see a tremendous lack in what comes out. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're looking for funds. You really have to know and have studied how that process works and understand who the people you're presenting is and what's going to entice them to come on board. Just because it's easy, if you knock on a door once and you don't do it right, that door may be closed to you for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm. Excellent advice, Paul.
Good point, Paul. Very good point.
Excellent advice, Paul, in the sense that if you're looking for an investor and you're not prepared to do total transparency in due diligence and make it available, which brings us to another element in a website. You can create a virtual data room through databasing, which enables an investor to look at the information by signing in and signing out. It's just a function of a databasing. But you're absolutely right. That's why I use the word ethical. And anybody reading any kind of offering that doesn't fall under the purview of security, and can read the perspective and say, well, okay, where's this, where's that, where's this, where's that, where's this, and confidence is like courage on a battlefield. You lose it once, and if you don't have all that stuff done beforehand, that's another area. In the niche, and I thank you, Jay, the niche I'm looking into is in the real estate marketplace. All that stuff is legally prepared by the broker or the agents or everybody in concert. So that package is readily available.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it would be readily available.
Yeah. I got a friend who's in the lending niche, well, in the lending business, like payday loan type of deal, but it's only specifically for realtors. So he'll front the money of their commission that they're going. So they'll have a sale of a house, and then they get their commissions typically, 2 weeks or 3 weeks, a month later, depending on closing times and stuff. So what he does is he fronts that money to them, or a portion of it. Brilliant idea. I mean, because like you sell a house, you get 4K commission, and you want that gratification right away. So he's put himself in there saying, well, here, I can give that to you for a small percentage fee. Absolutely brilliant. And he's making hand over fist right now.
A great application of factoring.
Yeah, I would never have thought that agents couldn't wait those few weeks for that money, but
well, it depends on the agent, right? Yeah, I mean, so hookers and blow only last so long, right? So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, maybe we're headed to Vegas.
Yeah, I'm headed to Vegas. Yeah, I know nothing about that.
Okay, folks, I think it's time for us to stop the broadcast.
Yeah, we're
We may be a bit late on that one.
So we're going to wrap up today's conversation, and I thank you all. It's been very interesting. And with a reminder to please join the Being Your Own CEO community on Google+, so that you can see what's coming up, etc. And if YouTube is your pleasure, please do subscribe to my channel. So this is Laurel Ann signing off for this week, and we'll see you again next week.